Why did I invite Thierry here in Munich? Well, the story is that on holidays, I run in a bookshop in Belgium and I see a book, Digitalis. And I thought first, is this a sickness? But it was something that has to do with the digital world, an acceleration, with disruption, with all these words you hear today. So I buy the book, and I read it, and I continue reading. My wife said, it's bedtime, but I continued. And 3-4 days later, I contact Lano, the editor, and I asked him if that book exists in another language. In French, okay, so I buy the French version, and the idea comes up to invite Mr. Geerts with an English version not virgin, to one of the EU business schools. And in this beautiful room of the Bayerische Zof, where you have the yearly peace conference, we launched the event of the book Digitalis in English. And I have to thank every one of you to be here. We have a special delegation of India, which coincidence. We are more than 70 different nationalities, and I'm overwhelmed by the enthusiasm of the reactions of our students. So I give the floor now to Thierry, who is an excellent guest speaker because I've seen him on TV shows and so on. So he will challenge your brain. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. You have put the bar quite high, so I'm just the guy that will tell you that you don't live in Germany or whatever other country that you come from. You all citizens of Digitalis. And Digitalis is a new country with 4 billion people connected to each other thanks to the internet. That's what makes the world of today. The world is smaller than before. You can send a mail to someone in India and receive an answer in some minutes. You can find your friends that were in law school, even if they are now in South Africa and South America, and you can make a new group of friends that you connect every day with. If you do research in cancer, you don't have to go once a year to the conference of people researching cancer. You can be in touch every single day with all of them, and that's why research today is going faster. We hope to have, as soon as possible, everyone connected to the internet on this planet. Because the internet gives you access to information, education, healthcare, and culture. And that's what makes us human. So it's not a tech revolution. Forget about that one. It's a cultural revolution. It's about people. It's about culture. It's about content. It's about information. But we are connecting computers to each other for 25 years. So what's new? Why do you have to come tonight in Bavaria? Just because of one little thing, one little device, something that you took in your hands this morning before to hug your partner. I'm sorry for that, but yes, it's your wake-up, it's your alarm in the morning, it's your GPS to get you here. In fact, it's your window to the world. So let's get back when I came out of university. I came out in university in 1989, 1990 something. Look at all this stuff I had to carry around that now you just have in your pockets. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I had to turn my phone number. And I had to learn them by heart because there is no way to find the number. And you know, the most crazy thing about what I have here on the screen is that this was very expensive. I hadn't all of those. You know, it was only for the happy few, while now 90% of the people in developed countries have just a smartphone, and it's like 200 euros and you have a smartphone. And even that, what's on the screen now, they are just gadgets. The real thing is that with this little gadget, you have access to information. More information than the presidents of the United States 10 years ago. So how do we reinvent our planet with 4 billion people that have access to whole worldwide information? That's what makes you come, I hope, tonight, here. And the next big wave is already there. If you think that the mobile connection was already a revolution, then the next big thing is already ahead. And that's artificial intelligence, machine learning, AI, how do you want to call it? And that's also like a buzz. And the people think something wrong about that. When you think about AI, you think about Robocop and Terminator and Minority Report, like a digital version of Dirk Khan. We will not have a job anymore because everything will be digital. And that is not the case. That's not AI. AI is just technology that you have used today. All of you have used AI today. Without noticing, probably, but you used it. One big example for that is Google Translate. If you would have done Google Translate 2 years ago, it was a bit fluffy, a bit rusty. It was useful, but it was not perfect. If you use Google Translate today, it's almost perfect, and that's thanks to AI. If you're using Waze to get here, if Waze can find a way in the traffic, it's thanks to AI. If you're using Google today in a search, it's just working better than 2 years ago, thanks to AI. So AI is just computers that are interacting better than it was before. And the more visible part of that is voice. Because now you can talk to computers, and that's what we are becoming. That's this little thing on the right. It's Google Home. Google Home is just a smartphone in a box. So it's nothing new, but it's quite special. Because for us, we want to become something new. We used to be a search engine. You know, search something on your smartphone, get an answer, fine. But it's not so convenient with a smartphone. You have to get it out of your pocket. You have to type on this little thing. You have big fingers. It's not working very well. So the idea is to just leave that in your pocket, and you say, OK, Google, what's the age, when was Albert Einstein born? And it will just answer in 1879. You will ask, OK, Google, play some music, and it would work. You will ask your fridge to have a recipe, and you will ask your car to drive you to Berlin. So the things around you will be connected, and you will be able to talk to the thing around you, and they will interact in a very natural way, just to be useful. Artificial intelligence is a thing that will make computers finally work for us. Instead of you having to learn hard coding to do something on a computer, you will talk to them, and they will finally do what you want them to do. They will take over some repetitive tasks, some dangerous stuff, so that you can concentrate on what's really human, really important: creativity, communication, interaction, inventing things. Because this just technology is there, but it's doing nothing from its own. We have to reinvent the world with this technology available. We have to say, well, if we have this, we can solve cancer. If we have this, we can solve the problem of energy. We can solve mobility. So if you see something annoying in your life, something that you want to say, that's working badly, just look at the technology today and try to solve it. What we're doing for the moment as Google, it's something very important, is trying to find the difference between a Chihuahua and a muffin. So we pay the best engineers in the world to try to find the Chihuahuas in this picture. Why would we do that? How stupid can you be? How can you throw away money? Well, that's proving that AI is very stupid. Because for everyone here in the room, a concept of a dog is quite easy. If I say a dog, you can immediately imagine a dog. But for a computer, a Chihuahua and a Husky are completely different. For us, it's just a dog. So we have to make the computer understand that a Husky and a Chihuahua is also a dog, but a muffin and a Chihuahua are not the same things. Why would you do that? Well, not so long ago, you were taking 36 pictures a year. 36, not 40. Maybe 72, but never 40. Why? Because you had to purchase a little Kodak roll, and then you made 36 pictures. But now, you're making pictures all the time. You make all the time pictures, you don't even think about it, how this is working, how are they saved. If you lose this, you purchase a new one, and you find all your pictures back. So you make 3,000 pictures a year. But when you want to find the pictures of your dog back, you have to scroll over the 3,000 pictures, and that's not a good thing. So now you say, okay, Google, photos of my dog, and we will find your pictures of your dog in all your pictures. And I can say, find me the pictures of Dirk Khan, and he will find the picture of Dirk Khan. I can even make a photo album of him of last year, of all the pictures I took for him. And then you can say in yourself, well, okay, that's fine, that's fancy, that's Google, useful, but just for the fun. But if you can do that with dogs, you can do that with images in general. And so now, for example, we're helping companies to give quality control. We make pictures of, let's say, a piece of an airplane, and we will control that by AI, and we're improving the processes in company. So the quality is improved, the efficiency is improved. And so image recognition will start to help every single company. Not only the big companies. Even an SME can make pictures and use the artificial intelligence tools of companies like Google, and he can recognize his pictures for his SME. So all SMEs in Europe should embrace AI, not develop their own AI, but they can use AI. And that's news. They can upload all the text of their website, which is probably made in German, and make it automatically translated in 140 languages, and open a website to 140 languages, so that they can sell their products all over the world. That's AI. AI will help you, every one of you, in your career and in what you're doing. But now, let's think a bit further about all those stuff. So the internet, the mobile internet, cloud computing, artificial intelligence, blockchain, these are not just gadgets. They make a profound change in our society. And as profound that we can call it the fourth industrial revolution. We're all living in the middle of the fourth industrial revolution. Now, I imagine you know that. You read it in your newspaper, and then you turn the page, and you do the sport thing, or the culture, or whatever, and back to normal things. But no, we really have to think about the impact of an industrial revolution in our daily lives, for our careers, for our companies. We have literally to reinvent everything we are doing. All processes and human interactions so far have been processed and done thanks to the prior industrial revolutions. And now we have to rethink them with the digital revolution. Welcome in this digital revolution. It's a good thing. All these revolutions have made that we are living so healthy now. We can eat more food than before, we have better clothes, we have better housing, all better, thanks to the prior industrial revolutions. And so we have also to embrace this one to make a better life. There's another thing that's interesting about this industrial revolution. Because the past industrial revolution were based on raw materials, on coal for the first one, on oil, on steel, and now it's based on knowledge. And you call it the knowledge economy. It's a knowledge economy today. And knowledge, it's something amazing, because knowledge is something that we have. It's very human. We can share it. It's abundant. We can all work about that. So you have to build 100 million cars. You need a lot of steel and oil, and you will pollute a bit. If you make an app that will be available for 200 million people, you only need 9 people, 9 clever people. WhatsApp, 9 clever people did WhatsApp. 9 clever people built Android. 1 clever guy built Gmail. So you don't need to have a lot of materials. And so we will solve some problems of humanity, like climate change. That's how you have to see the industrial revolution. Don't be afraid of it. There are new tools to solve problems. And for you all that are now in university, I'm a bit jealous. I would love to start my career now, because at the start of things that you can reinvent everything. So it's the best moment you can imagine to be an entrepreneur. Everything that you say, you can start doing that. Start a company as a startup, that's one cool thing. Or be an entrepreneur. Go to one big company, all these amazing companies that we have in Europe, start to work for them, but don't do what they ask you to do. Help them to transform themselves to the digital revolution. If you're working for this car company, help them to go to electricity, help them to go to self-driving cars, to sell products all over the world, because today, your small SME or your big company has 4 billion customers at one click. And because all processes need to be reinvented. So if your old, traditional, very successful company don't use the digital techniques, they will die because somebody else will do it. But that's not a necessity. We better transform our economy to this digital world. But remind yourself, what we have to do is a list of things. It's finance, it's mobility, it's healthcare, it's education, it's maybe democracies. So we need everybody to work at that. And we need these brilliant brains that are in the room today to participate to this big change, this big transformation. I'm always a bit afraid when I tell that people say, well, that's nice, but on Monday you will do nothing with it because it's a bit fluffy and too general. So let's do some examples to try to make that practical. So some examples of reinventions that I can explain more easily. So the first example is about cars. And I'm sorry for BMW here in Bavaria because I will challenge them. Because they build cars for 100 years. They make fantastic cars. Every single year, for 100 years, they try to make this car a bit better. So first of all, a bit nicer, a bit faster, a bit more reliable, a bit less consuming fuel, then a bit less polluting, and then at the end they get out of ideas. How do we improve this car for another 100 years? And some other people in Silicon Valley are looking at the same car, and they look at it and they say, well, it's very stupid. Only 4 wheels and an engine. How stupid can a thing be? We are not interested to make it a bit better. We want to reinvent it. How would you reinvent a car? Why would you reinvent a car? Well, 2 good reasons. First of all, we kill still 1.2 million people every single year in car accidents. That's a good reason. The second reason is it's polluting. So, okay, a self-driving car. And you know what? They succeeded in the self-driving car. Don't think that it will be for the long way future. We, at Google, we also already have 600 cars driving in a commercial service. And Tesla is also announcing a self-driving car, and BMW is also working on that, and Volvo is also working on it. So we will have, quite soon, self-driving cars. And the self-driving car is not just a better car. There are no accidents, it's electrical, and then why would you purchase such a car? You know, a car is the worst investment you can do. It's just not driving for 96% of the time. So you use your car on average 4% of the time. When you sleep, you pay for the car. When you're here, sitting here, listening to me, you pay for your car. So let's change that model. You have just your smartphone. You call for a car. They take you at home. They drop you off here, and it continues its journey to recharge or to take another person to one point B to one point B. So that's the new mobility. You will pay for mobility instead of paying for purchasing a car. And then imagine München without cars parked, because the cars are coming here, drop you off, and get away. So you don't need parking slots anymore. That's how we have to reinvent mobility by cars. There are obviously loads of examples. Another example is Airbnb. They reinvented the hotel. Airbnb is renting out every single day more rooms than all the hotel sector on the sector. And you know what? They don't own one single room. In the digital world, you don't need to own things. to be successful. In the industrial world, we're rich because you have hotel rooms, because you have cars, and now you're rich because you interact with people. Airbnb does better understand what you need to go on holiday than the hotel sector. And they understood that they could activate rooms that were not hotel rooms, that there were rooms that you had that were empty in your own house. That's what we need to do. We have to rethink the world completely in a different way. And then you say, okay, but that's only Silicon Valley. Okay, that's a bit true for my examples. Don't forget about China. They do exactly the same. They have self-driving cars. They have a search engine. They have Alibaba. They have Tencent. They reinvent everything in Asia. So let's think about something European. So a Belgian example is that one. It's a Belgian bank that went almost bankrupt in 2008 because of the crisis. And they reinvented themselves with a banking app. And then you say, okay, it's just an app. No. Because of the app, they now have a daily contact with their customers instead of having once in a while a contact with the customer. And now they become a media company. They become a service company. You can do a lot of things with the banking app. You can pay for a parking. You can pay for public transport. You can ask information. And so they have a big revival. They're super successful now. So an app is not just an app. It's a rethinking of your business model. And so an old-fashioned bank that was almost bankrupt can reinvent itself and flourish. But even that, for you students, can be a bit far away. So you're not the bank. What would you do? So I thought, to go to Germany, I will think about the most stupid thing I have at home and see how we can reinvent it tonight. So we will do an exercise on reinventing the most stupid thing I found. It's a toaster. Why would you want to reinvent a toaster? This guy is completely crazy. No? Who in the audience has recently used a toaster and burnt the bread into the toaster? And don't be shy. Don't be shy. Higher. You're burning bread in a toaster? Yeah. Okay. You're the best audience ever. Most of the time, it's more than 50% that burned bread in toast. So you're champions in using toasters. Believe me, most of the people that are using a toaster are burning bread in a toaster. What? We are in 2019, you agree? We send people to the moon, we are making self-driving cars, we are amazing apps, but we are not, as humanity, incapable of making a toaster that stops in time. Well, if you look around you in your daily life, you will find every single day examples of those crazy examples, the things that are not working normally. But we have accepted that. There are more than 50 companies building toasters in the world. No single one is making a toaster that stops in time. It will become from Silicon Valley, or maybe from München. Maybe somebody of you say, well, I will make a toaster that stops in time. It's just one chip, one sensor, to stop it in time, and you make a new toaster. You could say that's not very digital, but it is, because a sensor is a digital device. But now let's connect it to the web. Why would you connect a toaster to the web? It's not expensive. €1 connected to the web, done. Then I can talk to my toaster. So I will come in the morning and I say, hey, toaster, good morning. I want to have my toast well done today. And your toast will be well done. And then my son will come in the room and will say, I want it light toasted. And he will do it. So you don't need that button anymore. So you make a cheaper toaster, because it's more expensive to put a button than to connect the toaster to the web. And if you can talk to it, it will recognize your voice. So if you say 3 times, I'm Thierry, I want to have my toast well done, the 4th time it will say, oh, I recognize you. Hello, Thierry, good morning. I will do your toast as every single morning. And with some APIs in the web, it's super simple to do. It's not expensive. You will not have to program all your day long to succeed in that. And then there's still a little problem. You still have to wait for your toast. Okay, so waiting is annoying. So you put a little screen on it. The screen is super simple. It's cheap. and then you can watch the news while waiting for your toast. So you come in, and the toast will say, hey, Thierry, here is the news. But it will not be the news, it will be your news. Because the toast has recognized you and will provide you the information that you want to read in the morning. So for example, I will receive the value of the share of Google, and you will receive the last sport information or whatever you're interested about. So that's a toast reinvented tonight, just in 10 minutes. You connect the toast of whatever to the internet, and it can interact in a personal way and become useful. I recognize it's a bit of a funny example, but it's a real case. You know, more than 50% are struggling with toasts that are burning in a toaster. But I want to inspire you just to think about stuff that you can reinvent, and that you can be in the company helping them to change things, or with a startup. Challenge them. That's what we want from European students, to challenge the world today, use technology of today. That is not future technology, it's actual technology. Everything I am explaining today is technology that is available around us. So, fine, but you can also do bigger stuff. And at Google, we say we will not work on the toast, we will do some other things. And let's think about big challenges in the world. And the first big challenge in the world is access to energy. We need a lot of energy, and we still use a lot of fuel. Well, Google has proven in 2017 already that this big company with 100,000 people can work only with green energy, only renewable, sun and wind. So already more than 2 years ago. If Google can do it, more people can do it. And that's logical, because the sun is providing more energy every single day than we need altogether for a full year. So we have enough free energy from sun, from winds, from different sources that we can use, we can have to capture that. And we prove at Google that now this technology is ready so that we can do that. Now, the second biggest challenge of humanity is access to clean water. But also there, on the planet, 70% of the planet is water. So we don't have a problem of water, but it's salted water. The problem is to get clean water. But you can do that with energy. And I just told you that energy is abundant, is for free. Once you have installed the solar panels, you receive energy for free, so you can transform water into clean water. And that's not a futurity, that's already done. In Africa, you see little devices with solar panels that is transforming water into clean water. And so, that's the book about abundance that I recognize you to read, and I talk about it in my book too. It's just a vision of the future, to look at these technologies that cannot help us make a better toaster. We define what we need to do, but it will also impact humanity in big ways to solve the energy problems, access to water, and healthcare. In healthcare, we will change from a curative medicine to a predictive medicine, thanks to the analysis of DNA, and thanks to also for a better medicine. That's what we want to work on. But you're here in business school, so maybe we have to think about reinventing business. And definitely here in Germany, business is still very traditional. I see some ties and some suits. I put my suit today, especially for you. Normally I'm in jeans and t-shirt, but today I changed my device to talk to you. But it's not about this. Whatever you wear, it's about what you do. And so let's do a little example of transformation into business. And therefore, I looked at retail. I think retail is a good example for other businesses. So this is the little lady, which is my grocery shop when I was 6 years old in Antwerp. And this lady was amazing. She gives us a personal service. She knew myself, my mother, my brother, my sister. If I would ask for shampoo, I wouldn't need to say which kind of shampoo, because she knew where the shampoo that the family Geerts was purchasing. The problem is, it was very expensive, and the offer was super low. There were only a few products in her shop. So we industrialized the retail. And the industry of retail is a supermarket. And so you get on Saturday in the supermarket, well, I'm going on Saturday in the supermarket, and you have plenty of offer, the prices are low, but the service is inexistent. You don't receive service in the supermarket. If you think, go to the place where they sell the shampoos and ask somebody which kind of shampoo would I need to use. I tried it. You really need to try it, because then you are this crazy customer of the week. And they tell it at the cafeteria. They say, you know what, there's a guy, he asked me for a shampoo. They are not trained for that. The industrial society has not prepared the employees to help the customer. It's just a part of the process. They have to fill the racks. This lady or person would love to help us. They would be probably more proud of their job if they could help customers. But they're there to fill the racks. And it becomes worse when you want to pay. Because if you go to the cashier, they have invented the scanning machine. And they scan faster than I can pack. And that's my worst moment of the week. At the moment, they would need to say, thank you, Mr. Customer, you have spent 100 euros with me. They stress you because you don't pack as fast as they can scan. And that's the clash of the industrial world with you, humans. We used to that because there was the only way to do it in the past. But now, we digitize retail. And that's the web shop. So you go online. The offer is super amazing because you can purchase products out of China, from India, from South Africa, whatever. The prices are super low because you can compare. You will look for several prices and purchase the lowest one. And the service is super personal. It's not human, but it's personal. If we all open a page from Amazon, we will all have a different shop. If you purchase books, it will offer books. If I purchase shampoos, it will offer shampoos. And if you purchase books and you purchase some books with Amazon, you will even receive a better advice of the next book that you want to purchase. Even the bookshops are saying that's a better advice at Amazon that they can give. They don't know you personally, but they have so much experience with purchasing process. And they have quotations of books, so they can say, you should read this book. They don't give advice on shampoos yet, but I say that you will find advice on shampoos online better than you can find in shop. Is the shop dying? No, that's not sure. They just have to transform themselves. And if you think that the normal shop in the street is dying, then look at the big tech. They're purchasing shops. Amazon has purchased Whole Foods, and also G&D and Tencent purchased just shops in the street. But it will be omni-channel shops. There will be an interaction between online and the shop, and the service will be amazing. You will receive personalized advice. And that's why, for all your businesses that you do, think at this example. And these are the 3 rules I want you to get into your business. Every business has to do business in a personalized way. It has to be seamless and fast. I've explained you the personalization on Amazon. For the seamless thing, another example from the hotel sector. Who are using Booking.com if they travel? Who is using Booking.com? Okay, thank you, almost all of you. Bad guys. You're bad guys. The hotel sector hates you. You're supposed to go to their websites and to order your hotel there. And then I talked to the CMO of a big hotel chain. And he was telling me, I'm angry against Booking.com. I have to pay commission to Booking.com. That's not fair. And I say, what do you want the people to do? Well, they have to come to my site. And I say, OK, let's try. And I opened my mobile, and I tried to book a room in his hotel chain, big hotel chain. I will not name it, not to offend them, but it's a big chain. And after 10 pages, playing with my little fingers on this screen, I just gave up. I went to Booking.com, and in 3 screens, 3 clicks, I had a room in his hotel at the same price than on his website. And then he told me, yes, but the board of directors refused the budget for a new mobile app, and we have an old legacy system, we cannot communicate with them. I say, ha, 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 ha. You're not angry against Booking.com. You're angry about yourself. It's your own fault. You haven't adapted to the technology. This is your headquarters today. You have to watch that this should work far better. It has to be seamless, convenient. So they pay now a commission to Booking.com just to do the right interaction with their customers. And so companies that will not have a seamless experience, they will be disrupted by some digital company. They will become in between their customers and themselves. And on being fast, it's quite easy. If you purchase something on Zalando, you will have it in 1 day. If you order it in a local shop here, it will take 10 days. Yes, you can wait for 10 days, but guess what? You will purchase it at Zalando. Yeah. So even whatever business you're in, or if you will be in, everything has to be personalized, seamless, and fast. Just because it's possible. Those are the rules of marketing that we know for years, but thanks to digitization, today you can do it. It's possible. So the challenge is just to do it. And we have to do it. But therefore, we have to change the culture. Because we have to innovate. And the problem is it's happening a bit in Silicon Valley and Asia, not in Europe, because in Europe, we are taking more time in defending the past than to embrace the future. We're still very hierarchical. We have big companies with big bosses. We have to just break that up and to start innovating, start using the technology that's available today and work together. It's about collaboration and using technology. That's what it's all about. We in Europe, we are in a paradox that people are using this technology day to day and businesses don't. And that's a risky place. That's why maybe how welfare that we have in Europe can be at risk because we don't transform to what the consumers is doing every single day. We are living in a small bowl like this big little fish. Our dreams become too small. Our dream is to keep what we had before. It's not like in Asia or in America when we dream of doing new things. Africa is embracing it because it's a revival from them. They can access stuff that they didn't access in the past. And we are dreaming in our little bowls, in our little regions. And I think that's just a pity. So together, let's make Europe the capital of Digitalis. Digitalis is your country. Embrace it. 4 billion humans, and anytime soon, all humans connected that you can serve with a better service or better product. So you are in the center of this digital revolution. If you find it interesting, you will receive a book, and the book tries to explain that in all different sectors, why Digitalis is the future, and we can embrace it today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Geerts. We're going to have a few questions now that you kindly agreed to answer, and we'll also have a time for some of you to ask some questions. So perhaps as we start this conversation, think about some of the questions you would like to ask. We'll take those questions in about 15 minutes or so. Mr. Geerts, I want to start first and foremost by thanking you. We were sitting here up front, and I think, I hope I can speak for everybody, we all learned a lot. You really laid out a very interesting expose about what technology is and what it can do. And we owe, first and foremost, a big thank you to you, because it doesn't happen every day that we get somebody like you to speak to us here. So thank you for that.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Now, of course, you know how it goes. If there were two people here on stage doing the interview, there would be the good cop and there would be the bad cop.
Okay.
So we just had the good cop, and now, of course, has to come the bad cop.
No problem at all.
No, I want to start with this, and I want to get to your story in just a little bit, because I would like to know. We've seen what you think and what your vision is and what you do.
Yeah.
And I'd love to know where you come from. But before I get into that, I want to start with this, because as you were making your presentation, I noted a lot of words. I noted words like optimism, benefit, good thing, don't be afraid, transform, it's the best possible moment, and it will be better. In other words, you seem like the eternal optimist. Now, of course, there is another world out there too, where perhaps things are not so positive. And I want to ask you, could you tell us a little bit about that and about that that difference between the world that you present, Digitalis,
Yeah.
and the real world out there?
Yeah. So to be clear, Digitalis is the real world, and it has this negative side too. And what are the risks of digital revolution? Well, it's clearly security of the web, it's privacy, how to respect individuals, and it's populism. If the countries are closing down, to succeed on the positive side of technology, we need international collaboration and long-term vision, and that's obviously not what populist is doing. So that's really the risk. I know that people tell me a tech-optimist, but I think I'm a possibilist. The only thing I want to do is to show what's possible with this technology. And there is also a whole chapter on the risks on that. But you can focus on the risks, and then you do nothing. Or you can understand what you can do with it in the positive side, and then understand the risks. And you manage the risk better when you do something with it. Because if you try to manage the risk without understanding it really, you don't manage the risk. You think you're managing the risks. So for example, in Germany, there's a big focus on privacy. So we focus on privacy. But you know what? If you focus on privacy and you don't get the security, you're nothing. Because company can respect your privacy, but then if a hacker can come in the company and take your information out, there is nothing win. So you don't focus on the wrong thing. First, the most important is security and democracy. Because once again, if you give a perfect Gdpr law to a government who is a totalitarian state, it's no solution. So it's democracy first, it's security on the internet, and then it will provide your privacy. But to succeed on all those, we have to understand what we can do in technology. And therefore, we also have to understand that we live a better world today than in the past. You know, people sometimes complain when you have to work longer. Instead of 65 years, you have to work to 67. We forget to explain to the people that we live twice as long than 100 years ago. We have more countries in democracies than ever before in history. We have less deaths by terrorism than ever before. We have less wars in the world today than ever before. And that's obviously what the populist is explaining. So look at the world that is this today. It's better than ever before, but we still have a lot of things to solve. And now we have tools to solve them. But if we don't explain that to the people, they will become afraid and they will go for populism. That's, in fact, the reason and the reasoning between optimism and possibilist.
Yeah. I think it's a very fascinating topic, and we'll get back to it in just a little bit. But before we do that, I also want to take a moment, because a lot of the people here are going into the labor market quite soon, I think. And perhaps some of them for the first time, and some of them probably have had a few years of experience. And so before we get back to the whole tech debate, I did want to ask you actually, who are you, right? Because we know you up until now as the CEO of Google in Belgium and Luxembourg. That's how we know you. That's about everything we know about you. But we saw one picture, which was very interesting, about the shopkeeper from when you were a little kid. Could you tell us a little bit what happened in between? What happened, for example, when you were the age of most of the people here, when you were in school and you got your first job? What was your path to Google?
So first of all, I grew up in a family with doctors, so I didn't know anything about business, and I was supposed to become a doctor, and I decided that just 6 months before to start for a doctorship, it's not what I need to do. There is something wrong with that. And I started to find information. I started a business engineering, a bit by accident, and I found it amazing. I was super motivated. But then, once again, when I was finished my university, I had no clue what I should do, because I grew up in a healthcare world. So I got some advice, and I started in the audit. So I started for PwC, and I learned a lot there, but I felt there that I wouldn't become a finance guy. I wanted to be a general manager. So I started to develop my own vision that it was the world when I wanted to be in, but I wanted to be a general manager. And so I need to get out of finance. And so how you get out of finance is getting into sales. And so I told myself, I need to go in sales. But nobody wanted to hire an audit guy to go into sales. And so finally, I found one company. It was an industrial laundry company. And they hired me as a sales guy. So I started to be.
It's not quite Google.
Yeah, it's not at all about Google. The internet was not existing at that moment. And then I get a fast career there, and I started to be a general manager of industrial laundry. So I was 30 years old, I had 100 people in my company, and I was managing trucks and laundry things, and so interesting, but maybe not very future-proof. So I was thinking to myself, I cannot do that to my 65, it will be boring. And then one day, I had to ask to send a first email. In 1996, my American shareholder asked me to send production reports by mail. And it was like, whoa, this is something special. And I decided to quit my super comfortable job when I was a super general manager with a chauffeur and big car, and started to go on the ladder to do internet projects in a media company. And so I worked for 15 years in a media company, and then I started to work on digital projects, obviously. And then one day Google called, and then started to work for Google. But it was not like, I'm not a computer nerd working for computer science. I reinvented myself quite some time in my own career. And that's what I would advise you, to find your passion. And then, if you don't know exactly what it is, do some experiments. But design your own track. Don't wait too long that a company, that you have a golden cage, because you have a good salary and a good car, you wouldn't do what you like. So think about yourself if you like what you do, and if not, change.
If you had to do it all again, because you've been an accountant, a junior accountant, you've been a manager, you've been an entrepreneur, and now of course you work for a tech firm. If you had to do it all again, if you were 23, 25 today, what would you do?
I have no complaints about my own career. I would probably do the same, but if I would start now, I would do two possible things. Or I would start my own toaster, probably. So I think that would be cool to do. Otherwise, I would definitely go to work for Google in Dublin. And I don't say that because I work at Google. I just unbelievably jealous of those young guys that can start a career in Dublin. And they're surrounded by 70 nationalities. We work with all kinds of languages and nationalities together in Dublin. And they do all kind of job. They're not all computer nerds. We have also lawyers and accountants. But it's such an atmosphere of collaboration, young talents, that I'm a bit jealous about. And so go abroad and experience. I would definitely travel a bit more in the beginning of my career, because all my career was in Belgium.
Yeah. Now, as a matter of fact, I have a few friends myself who work for Google in Dublin, and they absolutely love it. And by the time that I graduated, and even until I think about 3 or 5 years ago, people would probably kill to get a job at Google. And by the way, I'm sure there's a lot of people who would come afterwards to you and hand you their contact information. Yeah. But I have also seen that reputation has started to change, and I think you may have sensed that too. It used to be that tech was sort of the hottest thing in the market, and people wanted to work more for tech than they wanted to work for finance or for consulting, for anything else. But in recent years, we have seen a backlash. Yeah. We've seen it both in how people feel about tech companies, and we've also seen it in a regulator space with the European Commission recently fining Google. This Sunday, I think Mark Zuckerberg wrote a letter. He meant it very well. He said many of the things that you said. A lot of people reacted very negatively. Yeah. Do you understand that?
Yeah. No, I understand that very well. It's going really fast. And I'm now the lucky guy that can see it from the insides. And I see a lot of training and insights to understand what's happening. But for a lot of people, it's going too fast. It's not well explained. I think it's a more interesting moment in time, because to be honest, it's not interesting, a purely tech optimism to go, everything is fine, everything is bright. That don't lead to the right conversation. The better conversation is to be challenged, is to together have discussions about the dark side of those things. Because no revolution has been perfect. No innovation can happen without negative and positive things. So I think we're now in a better place in history when there is that real challenge and discussion. Finally, there is discussion about it. And there is some regulation, and that's a good thing also. The only thing I would hope is that there are more knowledge people about this to have the discussion. Sometimes we have discussion about the risk of digitization of AI with people that literally don't understand it, and obviously that don't give a good discussion. So that's why I open up with this book, not only about this optimism, but I hope that some people will just understand better what's happening, but challenge us. You know, that's the real thing. And I'm more proud to work for Google at this moment in time, because I think Google has really, even with the things that are happening today, I think Google is really the company with the good values, and with two founders that are really there to try to understand the world and do good things. And they say, we have to understand better, to have to explain better, and maybe help to transition. And so that's why I was talking some time ago about we don't invest everything in new tech companies with disruptors and only startups. We focus a lot to transform ecosystem. We work a lot with news industry, for example, because we're afraid of populism, and the press journalism is working to explain the world and will challenge leaders. So we need good journalism to survive in digital times. So we need to help in transforming journalism from paper-based to digitally based. So we want to be a responsible player in that, and that's why I feel comfortable at Google, and that's why this book is a personal book. I didn't have to have approvals to write that kind of book, which is amazing. This open culture to say, yeah, we need people to think about it, and maybe I will write something that Google wouldn't have read, but that's not a problem. And I think now it's the best moment in time also because there is this discussion, thanks to this discussion. But I hope that in Europe we will not only think about fines and you know, regulation, because technology is something that we invent in Europe, it's turned into business in US, then it's copied by Asian companies, and then it's regulated in Europe. And I think we need other pieces of the pie. I think it's good to invent technology, but we could also turn it into a business. And we could also copy some interesting stuff. And then we will regulate too, but I think that will be only a part of the solution and not the only thing that we can be proud of.
Sure. Now, I think we'd all love, at least for those of us who are from Europe, I think we'd all love to see more big tech players in Europe. I think of the largest 20 tech companies, I think only one is European-based, which I believe is SAP. And so, of course, we would love to have that, but we don't, right? Yeah. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen because of the new generation taking on new challenges. How can they do it, though? Because if it was easy, you know, your generation would have done it here in Europe, or people of my generation would have done it 10 years ago, but that didn't happen. How do you create the next Google, and what can you do to help Europe, let's say?
Yeah, the first thing is too many people think that everything is done. Look at 2005, for example. In 2005, you would have said, well, the web is Google. There was almost no Facebook, there was almost no Spotify, there was no Alibaba. So look at all the companies that were created after Google, and there will be far more, even from now to the future. A lot of other companies will be created. Spotify is another tech company known in Europe. So that's the first thing. If you think everything is invented, not at all. We're only at the beginning of the digital revolution. There's so many things to do. And I think my toast example is that example. Right. That we can do, but it's about everything.
It's not going to be $1 trillion company.
It can be a lot. But it's just an example. Look at Spotify. Spotify is a super example. It's a European company, only created 10 years ago, and they are here. The second thing is, we are in Europe the champions of the B2B, thanks to digital. So forget that it's all about US and all about Asia. In the business-to-business world, Europe is a champion. One example, we talk about Silicon Valley, but where is the chip invented of Silicon Valley? Where is it developed? The next generation? Not in Silicon Valley. It's in Leuven in Belgium. It's Imac. In Imac, there is 3,000 engineers, the best of the world, and they produce the chips for all tech companies of the world. And so all over Europe, there are those B2B companies. Like SAP, for example, is an example of a B2B company. And so I think the combination of there's so many things to do. We are already giants in the B2B digital. And the inspiration of the new generation, I think that we can do a quantum leap. Maybe we missed the first part of the digital revolution. On artificial intelligence, there is still so many things to do that we can do it in Europe. So just start to do it, and just forget about we're afraid or it doesn't happen here. It depends on us. We can really decide. We can decide to start a company tomorrow, or we can decide to go to a big incumbent company and transform them. They have a lot of people, brains, money, and we can help them to transform to digital. I did it for a publisher, and they're super successful online. They had 100,000 readers on one publication on print, 1 million on digital. So I think those kind of things can be done in Europe.
Okay, well, let's see if we manage to do that. I want to make sure that we open also the floor to questions from the audience. And I think that we have a microphone that can be carried around. So if you have a question, please stand up or put your hand up, and then we'll take a question also from the audience. We'll probably take 1 or 2 questions at the same time. So 2 questions over here, and then we'll get to the next ones. Yeah. And please, if you could stand up, say your name, and remember, the idea is to ask a question.
Thank you. Well, I'm Dr. Otero. I used to be the academic dean of your business school. Now I'm a lawyer and a scholar, and actually my field of research is AI. So my question for you goes on, one of the things that I have realized since I started researching on how digital platforms, artificial intelligence, how all this fourth industrial revolution is moving forward, is that the political parties are not moving at the same pace.
What is what?
The political parties, the political power. So all the responsibility, it's in the hands of industry, I will say. They are, platforms like Google, Facebook, Amazon, they are the ones who are actually pushing forward. So, and I see the elections happening in Europe, European elections soon. I haven't seen or heard even a single mention about how to boost artificial intelligence. I see a lot of attempts at regulating things related to that. So what will be your advice in order to get our politicians to, as you said, think forward, think long term, and help boosting this Digitalis, this, I think, very necessary revolution in Europe?
Thank you. And we'll get one more question before we get to the answers.
Oh, that's more complicated for me.
Hello, good afternoon to you. My name is Amir Zarkish. I'm an EU student. My question for you is that 2 weeks ago, we just heard that Google just launched their Google Stadia, which is revolutionizing the gaming world. I wanted to know, what do you think that it will have its impact on the whole tech industry, because it goes against every standards as it is out there. It's getting rid of Intel CPUs. We don't need to buy very expensive machines out there anymore.
Yeah.
And it goes exactly against everything, is changing the game. Do you think that Google, technology, very big tech companies are in trouble now? What is your thoughts about that?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. On the first thing, we have lost our capabilities in Europe to think long term. That's really it. So thank you for your question. It's all about that. So every single thing that we do in Europe is more conservative, thinking back, or we solve one problem, but in fact we create another problem. So we need to find a way to dream again and to have this long-term view. I don't know how we have to do that. We have put in place all policy systems that are election every 4 years, and then we have made lasagnas of decision makers, and that's a bit the problem. In Belgium we have 7 of those, only for 11 million inhabitants, so imagine what it is. But I'm not sure how we need to do that. That's the only problem. But I still think that companies can do that. And so the governments will follow. If European companies are starting to think about this a bit longer term, and board of directors are doing that, then I think the European regulation and legal stuff will also embrace that. For the moment, so I think the initiative is now for the private sector, because they cannot really solve it from a policy type. On Stadia, I think it's just so predictable that this would happen. All these old school devices, like you don't have in the past you have a digital box for your television. And now you have a Chromecast in your television and you can just stream Netflix directly. You use Netflix, you find it normal. And so it's completely normal that for the game industry we would have the same thing, that this box that you have to purchase and this very expensive computer, they will disappear. So I think that was so predictable. The thing is, who can do it and how fast? And then, it's still a big bet because the challenge is the speed. If you're gaming, you need a reaction of some milliseconds. So you need to send the gaming things to the cloud, have it computed, and get it back as if you don't feel that there is a delay into both things. But I think it's a good question for Sony, for Microsoft, and others that are in making those machines. The question is, if you're Microsoft and you're earning money with the Xbox, why are you not on top of that? Because it's so predictable that it would happen. But you see that everywhere. So taxi companies, they could have done Uber. That it's just an easy app to use a taxi. There was no reason to wait for Uber. The Uber app is definitely not a complicated thing. And the taxi did wait for Uber just to do a better service that you can pay with the cards. Those obvious things. So it's always obvious for the people outside of the industry. And so for Google, it's obvious. Well, Netflix has disrupted television, and nobody's talking about games. Gaming is a big thing. So it's just a technology issue. Let's try to solve it. But yes, it has an impact. But we have been disrupted too. We have been disrupted a bit by social media, for example, by cloud computing, that we are a bit slower than sometimes other companies.
So again, state your name and your question.
Hi, my name is Will, excited to be here. I wanted to get your opinion on one of the technologies that you mentioned was blockchain. And I know there are many blockchain platforms looking to put data, the gold of the new century, back in the hands of the users. There is a platform called Brave. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, Brave browser. But it looks to put data back in the hands of the users so they can sell it if they want to, giving people more power. Now that would break up the business model of Google Chrome, for example, as you guys take and hold the data in a centralized database. What do you think about this? And what do you think about blockchain as a whole coming into Google?
Yeah. Okay.
For that question.
Yeah.
And then we'll have another question from over there.
Hello, my name is Anna.
Hello.
And first I want to say thank you for the inspiring presentation. And I have one question for you. While the world is becoming more and more digital, don't you think that we'll lose a sense of real life in life? We'll lose real life experience, emotions, face-to-face conversations. Thank you.
I'm not sure the question. As you.
So your question is about technology replacing human emotions and
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And what will happen
Okay.
as everything is digitalized, I suppose.
Okay, yeah. So blockchain and emotion. On blockchain, I didn't talk about blockchain, not because it's not there, not because it's not important, but there's so many topics. Cloud computing, for example, it's also a topic that you can discuss here at length and some others. So yes, blockchain will change our life. And then will that disrupt Google? Yes, it will. The people think that Google is a big company that can just not be disrupted and be super successful. We inside Google, we are all the day super afraid that the technology will disrupt our technologies. And so, yes, blockchain will disrupt a lot of things that we are doing, and we try to anticipate that. But forget about that. Google is unapproachable and unattackable. When the mobile phone was invented, 100% of our business was on a laptop. And then this mobile phone started to come. And we had to embrace the mobile phone. While we had no revenue on the mobile phone, we set all our engineers on mobile phone. And thanks to that, we succeeded more or less on mobile. And so on blockchain is the same thing. But it's not crystallized yet what blockchain will do. For the moment, it's a bit too expensive to compute to make it like a technology for everybody. But it will be there soon. But the match is open, what can be done by blockchain. By the way, there are a lot of European companies working on blockchain and probably more advanced on blockchain than we are. And I hope that blockchain will be a European-centered thing. Why not? It's still, nothing is done on blockchain. Everybody knows Bitcoin of blockchain. That's just one example, and probably a bad one. So it's fantastic technology that will have big impact on your life, but it's up there to do something with it. On the emotion thing, artificial intelligence can replicate some emotion, but that's a fake emotion. And I still believe that it's useful that my phone will try to capture my emotion, that I'm in a good mood, I will have other music, that I'm in a bad mood, but this thing will not replace my emotion, it will not play my emotion. And what I believe is that technology will help us to free up time to have more emotion together. We will develop more emotion than in the past. In the past, in the industrial world, you were going to your company, work for 8 hours, be exhausted. You had no time for the human part of the life. And we will free up time to develop more interaction, emotion, creativity. And we will help by technology, but it maybe will have an impact on our emotions in 2050 or something like that. But I wouldn't care for that now. I would first of all use this technology to do things starting today, not being afraid of what it could maybe become in 2050.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure that we have time for a few more questions. Yeah, we do. And before we get to the final questions, maybe a follow-up question on that, because I think a lot of people are concerned about the impact of technology, not just in the market, but also for our society. And one of the central aspects is indeed, what does it do to human interactions? Because one thing that you gave in your presentation was the example of the lady who was in the corner shop, and she had expensive products, but she knew you quite well, and it was probably a quite nice interaction for you and your family to have somebody in the neighborhood that knew you quite well. Nowadays, of course, if you do all your purchases online, you won't have that human interaction. I think that's perhaps what the person who asked the question was referring to.
Yeah.
And we see that, of course, we see mounting evidence that instead of people spending more time to interact with others, as you say, there's freed up time, as you say, for emotion, but we see that people are spending that time more perhaps online and more on angry emotions, rather than, in real life and a more positive emotions. Is that not something that we should be afraid about right now, as opposed to in 50 years? And is that not something we should counter?
That's what you read in the news. And I'm sorry for media, but that's obviously highlighted. If you measure your life of today, and you measure your same life 10 years ago, you will see how much time you have and how much interaction you have with real people. For example, some people from lower school find me back, and I find my friends back that I had in the 70s, that in a normal society without internet, there was no way I could have interaction with them. And one of them came at my home, and I gave him some books, and once again, without technology, we wouldn't have this interaction. What you see is, you go to a restaurant, and then you see the people on their smartphones. But that's not the problem of technology. That's the problem of education. It's just stupid. And it's, by the way, not young people. I go in a very good restaurant, and I see two people of 50 plus, and they are, instead of talking to each other, they're playing with their smartphones. That's not a problem of technology. That's just a couple that needs to find another partner, because it's yeah. So obviously we have to learn to work with this technology. It's so amazing with some nice stuff that we start to spend a bit too much time on that. For example, at home, I have 4 kids. We use this very well, but when we eat, there is no way that anybody would use any technology device. On that moment, we interact with each other. And also, my kids are doing some scouting, and so for 2 weeks a year, they completely stop with technology. They go for scouting, they're in the middle of nature, they have no way to conduct, and they find it fantastic. And so they find the balance. And so once again, it's more, first of all, about, it's not so a problem as you may think because of reading the news. Secondly, you have to manage your life. And so once again, it's about you. This technology is available. You decide if you use it or not. And the people that are using it too much and they live on Facebook instead of reading their normal life, that's a pity. But we had them before. When you were lonely in the past, you were 100% lonely. There was no way to get out of your hotel room or whatever. And now when you feel lonely, you're still connected with some people, you have interaction, and you do some interaction. So I would love to have more sociologists and people from academics that do the real work to do the real impact on society. And then we had conversations how we can do a better education on the usage of technology instead of to say it's bad.
Okay. But you know, we can actually do a small sociological experiment.
Yes.
So why don't we ask people, if you agree with that question, whether they're excited about the technology going forward as a force for good, for themselves and for society, or whether they're worried about technology going forward as rather maybe perhaps a force that's not so good.
I will vote. I will vote too. Yes.
You will vote. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so the two options are, you know, technology going forward, force for good on average. The other option is going forward, technology on average not such a force for good, rather for bad. So for good. Okay. And for not so good, bad. So I have to say, so most of the people agree with you. Do you think this is an average result? Is this a good result? Is it a bad result for those who are not?
I voted for both. You know, I'm voted for both. And if you are an objective observer what's happening, you have the possibility to do all this amazing thing. And with technology, you have also all the possibility to screw up. And so the answer is your own hands. And I'm obviously happy with this audience. And most of the time, the people that are in business are more positive than the people that are not in business. So first of all, congratulations for the audience. I think that you will be more lucky in life with that attitude to say that will be positive. But we have to manage the downside too. So to be clear, I think it's the both things. With nuclear technology, we had the same. Thanks to nuclear technology, we do amazing things in medicine, but we almost blew up the planet.
Right. It's not,
so,
I want to get to one or two last questions. Let's see, one last question. Perhaps somebody who voted, over there, the person in the back, on this side. Yeah, gentlemen.
Stand up, please.
There we go. So, final question, big responsibility.
There's a lot of sunshine here. Yeah.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Abdul Mutallib. You spoke about populism a lot, and the negative effects of globalization brought about the current rise in populism. So what do you think the negative effects of digitalization could bring about? And is Digitalis truly possible? Because even in your speech, there was a focus on the European point of view rather than the global point of view. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Was that clear? Yeah, well, that was the last question.
That's all. Okay, 2-1. Okay, fine. Well, that's a very broad question. What you can do? So first of all, it is one world. You know, don't fool yourself. There is no Asia, Europe, whatever. We are really connecting, and the citizens are experiencing that. If you ask to the people, they are connected to the world. They use Ryanair to travel all over the place. So it is one world, but everybody in that world has to play his own role. And the question is, what is the role that Europe will play in this, whatever it happens, a global world? And then, once again, Digitalis is not about tech optimism. In Digitalis, I also a full chapter of the risks and the downside of it. And every chapter, I talk about the two sides of the thing. So don't read Digitalis to say this is a fantastic book about the tech optimism, and then I will read another one to understand the downsides. It is really a way to make you understand what's happening. And I think the only solution to populism is explain what's happening. That's the, and that's I have some people that sometimes are really angry about me. So if I have that, sometimes other audiences, they start to yell at me, Google is bad, and
well behaved.
Yeah, fantastic, thank you for that. And first of all, I say, I understand that you're angry, and then I have a discussion with them, and then most of the time they say, thank you for explaining. So what I don't understand about the policy people is that they have stopped explaining the world to the people. And it will not come from media, because media is not there for explaining the long-term benefits of everything. The media is on a daily basis to challenge what's happening. So that's their role, and that's why I don't complain about the media. But I think the policy people should say, we live in a better day today. We are living longer and we have more healthy, more wealthy, but they don't do it anymore. Politicians only communicate through media, but media are there to challenge them. So I think one of the most successful programs is Flanders Technology International that Flanders succeeded in the third industrial revolution. And there was a big chunk of communication directly from governments to the people about what this will have as impact. So what I would say is, in every single change, if you have a change in a company, but also in a society, the first thing you have to do is communication, communication, communication. So we are in the middle of the change. We need people that explain what's happening. Not the good, the bad, just explaining what's happening. And that's what I'm trying to do, and I hope that it was useful for you to get this insight.
Absolutely. I think, again, I hope I can speak on behalf of everybody to say that we learned a lot today, and I think we will learn more, because if I understand correctly, there will be now books for those who want to, that will be handed out right there. For those of you who need to catch a bus back, I suppose you got 8 minutes, so hurry up and come and get your signature and get the book. And for all of the rest of you, thanks all for being here, and look forward to the remainder of the evening. Thank you.
Thank you.